Hi, welcome to an episode of the Terms and Conditions. My name's Martha, and I am really excited to be speaking to you today. If all goes to plan, this will be on the iTunes store as soon as possible. Maybe you found me through my website or through one of my social media accounts, but I'm really happy to have you. The Terms and Conditions podcast is all about the things that underpin society, that influence the way we live our daily lives, but we don't talk about and we don't even really acknowledge them. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today, I really wanted to focus on the topic of weight loss and women's bodies in society. As a gender studies student, I am really passionate and really interested in learning about, the physical and gendered space that we take up in the world. And I think it's really important to think about our physical embodiment and what it represents, and how it influences the way other people perceive us and the way we perceive the world. So a little bit of background about me. I was a pretty healthy weight throughout high school. I was always on the sort of curvier side, but it was never a problem. I sort of fluctuated a bit up and down, but it was never insane. And I was never like the skinniest girl at school, like compared to my friends and compared to my peers. I wasn't necessarily like super slim or even like traditionally attractive. I was just like a healthy weight, and that was fine. And it was because we were like required to do physical exercise every week, and I was in a couple of social sports teams and things like that with my friends. And anyway, so while I struggled with body image, and I think pretty much all, if not most, teenage girls deal with body image issues, and teenage boys, I think plenty of people deal with body image struggles. Even though I dealt with those things, like I never had a problem with my weight. I was pretty average. I was pretty standard. When I left high school, though, I put on quite a bit of weight, and that's also pretty natural for people going into university. I moved away from home, and I wasn't eating, 3 square meals a day, because I was cooking for myself and I was fending for myself. And actually, a way that I bonded with my friends in Melbourne is we would sit up like into the early hours of the morning talking about feminism and like rape culture, and gender studies and queer theory, and we would talk about it, and we would eat chocolate, and drink Coke, and like that was the way that we bonded, and that was the way that we connected. And those are some of my fondest memories, even though they were just super chill and happened all the time. Anyway. So yeah, I've also struggled with a couple of mental health issues, and so gradually I just sort of put on a bit of weight. Anyway, recently I've been trying to lose it, and actually I think that's a trend amongst lots of my friends around my age. I think we all sort of put on a bit of weight after school and are now attempting to lose it, and I've actually been on light and easy, which means that I haven't really been exercising much. I've never been much of an exerciser, honestly. I tried to get into going to the gym, but it just wasn't really for me. But I've really enjoyed yoga and things like that. Anyway, I haven't been exercising much because I don't even have like a good excuse or a good reason. But yeah, so I've been doing light and easy, and I've recently lost about 13 kilos, which I'm really happy about and I'm really proud of. And I'm now back to a sort of standard weight that I was when I finished year 12, which must be about 4 years ago now, which is terrifying to think about. Anyway, so I've just been like thinking a lot about my weight and my physical embodiment in the world, and yeah, I think it's really interesting. I told my mum that I've got a school reunion coming up in about a year, and she said, you should go and you should like show everyone how much weight you've lost and like how great you look. I'm like, yeah, but they wouldn't notice. They like if I said like I've lost so much weight, they say like, well, you must have gained so much weight because I'm exactly the same as I was then. Anyway, I just thought that was quite funny. But so yeah, I feel really conflicted about losing this weight, because I've tried to maintain the attitude that, my body is just where my soul lives. Like, my body is just the vessel that my thoughts and my opinions and my feelings, and like, it's just a shell for like what's really important. And so therefore, I've never been super obsessed about crazy diets. I kind of went through a couple of phases and like starved myself for a week before formal, but like everyone does that. So like, I tried to be like, I don't care about my body. I care about my brain. I care about my heart and how I interact with other people. Um, and and my body doesn't matter. Like, as long as it's functioning, as long as it can move through the world, like, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. um, and I've also, never really been, um, I've never had a huge emphasis on wanting to be traditionally attractive, and wanting to attract guys or like people. Like, it's never been an emphasis for me of wanting to be traditionally attractive and that sort of thing. Because I kind of just, I feel like, you can take me or leave me. Like, if you don't find me attractive, like, that's fine. Like, it's no skin off my back. I'm absolutely fine. I'm fine in my own company. I'm fine with my family and friends, and um, like, that's chill. And if you do like me, like, I wouldn't want you to like me just based on my looks. There's plenty more there. Anyway, that's been my stance for a long time, and recently, um, I've I've obviously gone on a diet, and this has been going on for about 4 months, and it's been really successful. And so now I have this conflict of like, yeah, I'm happier with myself, but I what about those values? Does this show that I care too much about my body? Does it just show that I want to be healthy? What is health? What objectively is there such thing as health? Um, and I think there is. I definitely feel lighter, and I feel more comfortable in my skin, and that's a really cool thing. But I also find that I'm getting a lot more male attention, um, which is tough for me because I enjoy that, and that's nice. I'm definitely not gonna like palm that off, but at the same time, I question whether that's they would have liked me if I was bigger, and I struggle with that. Because there's no, like, I'm not gonna like put the weight back on to sort of gauge whether or not they would have liked me at a bigger size. Like, that just seems ridiculous. Um, and it's not even just people like talking to me. It's people checking me out on the street, and catcalling, and those sort of like superficial things that I don't appreciate and I don't like. But at the same time, it's a bit of a confidence boost, and it shows that I'm fitting more and more into this traditional idea of attractiveness, and traditional idea of beauty. Um, and that goes for other things as well. I've also recently been on a course of Roaccutane, so my skin's a lot clearer, and yeah, I've lost weight, and like things are sort of starting to come together. I'm starting to look more and more traditionally beautiful, and I just think it's an interesting process to go through, and I wonder, like, if it's okay that I care, and if it's okay that I care that much to go through chemical treatments and a structured diet program, um, and what that means for my feminism. Because my feminism is my intersectionality, and my feminism as a practice, as a really like tangible and everyday practice within society, is vital to me. I spend a lot of my time thinking about it, and so I I don't I would hate to jeopardize that, but at the same time, I think feminism as a practice needs to, it's for all women. It's for women who are bigger and curvier, and it's for women who can't put on weight, and you know like just have like the quickest metabolism ever. It's for anyone. It's for anyone who identifies as any gender, um, and it's about progressing women in society. It's about making everyone equal, regardless of size. So I that's how I'm sort of justifying it to myself at the moment, and I think that's okay. I think it's an ever evolving process, but also um, when it comes to women, we have traditionally been pushed into smaller and smaller spaces, and we're required to take up less and less space. So many men don't necessarily realize that they take up a lot of space physically, and it's just one of the ways that the patriarchy and male privilege is manifested in society. And so the more you notice it, the more once it comes to your consciousness and you sort of realize that it's happening, the more it's present every day, and you see it on the street, and you see it on public transport. You see it everywhere. It's insane. So one example from my childhood is my dad used to push his legs under the table, and he would sort of lean back in his chair, and his legs would go all the way across the table under the table. And so if you were sitting opposite him, you kind of didn't have any space to put your legs. And I used to call him out on it. My mum used to call him out on it. Toby, my brother, wouldn't necessarily, but there was nothing malicious about it. It wasn't a harmful act. It wasn't intended to make anyone feel small. It was just how it was. And it's the same when you see men on public transport, how they sort of spread all over the place, and the term manspreading is very real. And another thing is, I've noticed that when men walk down the street, if you're walking towards them, they will not alter their course. If it looks like you are going to collide, men very often don't move from your path. And so you kind of have to, as a woman, I feel like I have to duck around them and move to avoid a collision. And I think that's, it's not conscious, but it needs to be. And so the physical space that women take up in society is really important. And it's important to assert your space and to, like take the armrest on a plane when you're sitting next to a man, like the shared armrest. Like, it's important to mark your space and to say, like, this is where I'm at. This is a reasonable amount of space for a human to take up. And, therefore, like, you shouldn't be encroaching on my space. And as I'm getting smaller, as I'm decreasing in size, very literally, I wonder about my space in society and the physical sort of, what's it called? Like, not perimeter, but like the, my axis of motion. If I move, I make a lot of hand gestures. I'm making hand gestures right now. You can't see it, but it's just the way I talk. I think it's important to make sure that you take up that space and you say, like, this is me. Like, I deserve this space. I am a human, and I deserve to take up this space in society. And it doesn't necessarily hinge on the weight you are or the size you are, but rather on your mental and physical space. And so I'm trying to sort of justify and rectify the imbalance of these two factors and how I feel about them. And so, I'm consciously deciding now to not duck out of the way when there's a man walking towards me. And to compromise, to say that, like, I will meet you in the middle, but I'm not gonna retreat. Like, I think it's important to acknowledge to yourself that you deserve the space that you take up in a public setting, and I encourage all of you to do so. And I'd love to hear from you about funny stories about manspreading. Like, take pictures if you see it, because I think they're hilarious. I think there's a Tumblr around that's like manspreading in New York or something like that, which I love. I think is hilarious. Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I'd love to hear your own accounts of your physical space in society, and I'd I'd love to hear what your own experience and your own thoughts and your own accounts of it. Anyway, I wanted to wrap up with a bit of admin. This is my first episode, and I'm really excited to be sharing it with you. I'm currently a gender studies student and media studies student at UNSW, and I live in Sydney in Australia. I'm thinking about moving to London at the end of the year when I graduate. But this podcast is a love child of mine. I have a cat and I have this podcast, and that I love them equally. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you, not only about today's topic, but any ideas that you have. I'm hoping this will be a space for my own personal thoughts on feminism and society and culture and gender thoughts and all sorts of interesting things. But I'd love to hear what you'd like to hear. So you can shoot me an email at martha@thetermsandconditions.net, or you can go to my website, which is thetermsandconditionspodcast.net. No, it's thetermsandconditions.net. Sorry, I've been playing around on Squarespace all day. I'm trying to organize everything. So it's thetermsandconditions.net, and you'll find all the episodes there as well as contact information. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter. The links will be on the website. Yeah, I'm really excited to take this journey. I'd love to hear what you all have to think. And I hope to hear from you soon. Hopefully I'll be back next week with a new episode. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming at you, so please subscribe if you haven't already. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. Another thing I wanted to flag is my mum. I was talking to my mum about something that I'm interested in at the moment, which is a menstrual cup, which I'm sure I'll bring to you in another episode. It might be a rather squeamish episode. You might not want to tune in for that. I'll flag it at the top. And she said, this is just the flavor of the month. And, what if you change your mind? And people are going to point to your podcast and they're going to say, you used to like this and you don't like this anymore. So I am hereby declaring right now that I give myself permission to change my mind. If I find something cool, that's great. If in a year's time I find something that's cooler, that's cool too. Like I'm ever evolving. I'm a dynamic human. I give myself permission to say this is a great product or this is a great idea, but I like to listen to opinions. I like to listen to alternative points of view. And if you can convince me with an argument, of course I'm going to change my mind. And that's what makes me, that's what makes me me. That's what makes me subscribe to the sort of left-wing ideals that I subscribe to. It's all about listening to people's accounts and weighing up how you feel about it. And that's, I think that's fair, and I think that's legitimate. And I give all of you permission to do it. I don't know if you were waiting for permission, but if you were, here it is. It is okay to change your mind. It is okay to build upon the knowledge you already have. So hopefully I'll be coming at you with some interviews. If you have any cool people you'd like me to interview who are changing the game in their field, I'd love to hear about them and get in touch with them. I think that's it from me for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to bring you another episode. And I hope you have a good day. Okay, bye.